Hey, good morning. We got a special producer today, Mr. Drew Casaccio. Thank you for coming in and taking on charge and lead of this show today.
Happy to be here.
Good. Glad to have you in here, man. I appreciate it. And we have another special guest here today, Mr. Bruce Weinstein, because we kind of have a subject we've touched upon a little bit in the past, and it's a subject that most small and medium-sized business owners overlook. And that's all this wonderful insurance.
Right.
I know you want to kill a party. You walk in and just say, "Hey, let's talk about insurance."
All the excitement, right?
Yeah, there's, but you know what? It doesn't mean it shouldn't be talked about because it's a very important topic, very important subject. Small, medium-sized business owners need to know about this. I guess as you get into that medium-sized business owner, you're more aware of it because it's really a necessity at that point. But it can be a business killer if you don't have it, especially early on.
Fail the plan, right, Bill?
It does. Fail the plan?
Right. I think too, and obviously we have Mr. Bruce Weinstein here, right? So
yes.
He's the plan man. So that's when insurance gets exciting because you don't have to worry so much about planning when you have somebody in your corner in a vetted network that can do it for you.
Well, we don't know everything, right? And that's what this show is all about, is trying to help you understand all the different aspects of being a business owner, building a business, concept of success. And Bruce, welcome in on the show because let's get you in here talking.
Thank you, Bill.
Because this is important. And Drew, you're right. You need professionals. You don't know everything. And trust me, you need professionals to help you out. And you seek them out, you find them, you work with the ones that you feel comfortable working with. If you don't feel comfortable, get away.
Well, too, I think that your goal as a CEO or a president or a business owner or an entrepreneur is your mission critical process.
Yeah.
And that is what you do. So finding somebody that does what they do is going to be benefit to you.
Yes, but most of us small business owners like to think that we can do it all.
Of course. Ignorance is bliss sometimes.
It is. It is. But Bruce, welcome on the show today. And what do you think are some of the most important things that small business owners should be thinking about as they're ramping up?
Well, what you guys were just talking about is people's blind spots. And so a good CEO knows what they don't know. And the catch with the small business owner is they kind of come from a hobby first mode of thinking they could make it a business, which is why how many 80 plus 90% of businesses fail is because they're truly not capable of executing to the nth degree it takes, right? So that's why there's fallout. But the true successful ones have probably accomplished dealing with their blind spots. So you can put in the insurance conversation in the corner of some of those blind spots. And there's a litany, but the catch is that it gets costly. It's an expense that you kind of have to deal with. So depending on where they are, what level they're at, you can kind of grow into certain things as the business is more viable, but you can't take your eye off of what you need. And so part of the conversation with insurance is there's the committed side and the discretionary side. So workers' comp, if you have employees, is kind of committed. Like you have to have that. If you have W-2 employees, you have to provide workers' compensation. You don't necessarily have to provide health insurance. That could be something you implement later. So that might be construed as more discretionary. If you're self-employed, well, what about disability? Because now who's going to run the studio and the show and the bookings? And, if Drew's out on disability, he's got bills to pay. He's got rent and overhead and a business to run, and now he's not there. So there's so many different aspects. I can keep going, but you get the point is that there's different components here that tie in. And then some of it, like a disability piece, well, you have to have income to back it up. So if you're not taking a salary, if you're still showing a loss on the business, and so your bottom line is negative or flat, well, I can't get you disability insurance because you're not showing an income.
Small business owners do that. They love to say, I don't want to pay taxes. Just go to my accountant and say, whatever it takes, get me down to zero in taxes.
No, of course.
And they don't realize how much damage that does a small business owner going forward.
Well,
Um,
again, depending, I'm not the tax expert, but I think it's like, a pass through a Schedule C, which is what we are. My business income flows
Yeah.
through personal taxes. So now you try and get a mortgage, a car loan, or credit. If you're not showing income, it's not just you can't get the disability insurance. Well, now you don't qualify for very much on a mortgage. Your credit scores are lower because you're not really showing the income, and you're not adding to your Social Security deposits because you're not paying, payroll tax yet.
right.
So, you can't have it both ways. That's the dilemma. And then you have to kind of figure out where the divining rod is of taking enough to keep the flow, but minimizing the tax exposure.
Well, and most people though also think that things like health insurance, they think that's just supposed to be a given. When I go get a job, I should be getting health insurance. That's part of why I'm coming out and going to get a job and out in the world. Um, they don't see it as a perk.
Right.
And you can look at this two ways. Number one, you're not obligated to provide that to your employees. However, number two, if you don't, what kind of quality of employee are you going to find?
That's right.
And how long are those people going to stick around? Which brings up another type of insurance. It's key man insurance.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of folks don't understand key man insurance. Well, who's a key man? Well, might be the head of sales.
So first of all, we got to call it key person these days. You can't say key.
Oh,
man.
yeah. I'm getting that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Key man, key person. I'm joking, obviously.
I'm old school. That's
Yeah,
the problem.
no, I know. It's we're in the world we're in. But just before you go into key man, talk about
I do have E&O insurance.
E&O.
Anybody else got that?
Yeah, I got E&O. Got to have E&O is a version of malpractice. So
Yeah.
depending on your business, right? So you got to have that as well. Depending on your business, you need E&O. Doctors.
I have it just for personal reasons, not just business.
Yeah. But
I'm covering all the bases.
Before we go to key man, come back to the health insurance. Depending on the state that you're living in, like California mandates, you have to provide health insurance now. So depending on the state, it is mandated. Other states, it's optional. But once you incorporate it, which usually means the owner wants it for themselves, you can't discriminate. So once you're putting it in, then everybody has to have it. So where it comes into play.
Only.
Sorry,
Right?
W-2 only. Correct.
W-2 only, not 1099ers.
Correct.
And folks, the difference, 1099 is somebody you pay separately,
Self-employed.
self-employed, right, as opposed to W-2, who's a full-time employee.
We would say a 1099 is a subcontractor, if you will. Yeah. They're not on the books officially. You're paying them. They're not technically your employee, so you don't have to offer them a retirement plan. You don't have to offer them benefits.
Right.
Again, state of California, as an example, and again, you're seeing this move in waves in other states. They've done away with a 1099 classification.
Okay.
So
interesting.
I'm not. I don't.
There's got to be money in it for somebody somewhere there.
The state of Illinois, what they do is they come in and classify your employment. So if you have, we'll just throw a hypothetical as staffing company, right? Are these your employees? Well, no, they're all self-contractors. They have to get their own uniform. They have to buy their own stuff. Okay, how many hours do they work? Do they get to choose their jobs?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Okay, they're employees. Then there's a fine.
Yep.
If you don't move them to an employment site.
Yep.
And then you need, if you have 20 or more in your organization that are employed, you have to offer the benefits. And if that's up to them at that point, if they want to choose it or not, but you have to offer it.
And to define it, I know this is a Chicago-based broadcast, but it really varies blue states to red states.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very heavily on the blue side of more of these mandates, like California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey. So you find that the flexibility isn't the same. It's more mandated with penalties.
Yeah, that's
so
obviously there's money in it for somebody somewhere there, and
there's always penalties.
Hence we make these changes because it's all based on money, but there's all kinds of things to think about. Let's start off with just let's say I'm just starting a business and I have a partner. Do I really need any kind of insurance? I mean,
well, yes and no.
I'm covered by my wife for health insurance. Maybe she's working.
Fine.
I got my health insurance. I got that stuff. So I don't really need that.
Well, you touched on key man a couple minutes ago, so that would be a great example of where that would come in. If you have a 50-50 partner, you and Drew are partners in whatever the business is. The key man component, the key person component comes into a couple of different areas: disability as well as life insurance. Because you're 50% owner with Drew, and now Drew has to buy out your wife or your heirs if you were to predecease. Obviously prematurely, right? You didn't before you got to sell the business or transition the business
whenever
to
I
somebody
do
else.
pass away,
Right.
that will be
So
predeceasing.
so there's stock ownership, again, not necessarily like on the New York Stock Exchange publicly traded, but on a private business, there is stock ownership. You're 50-50 partners.
Yeah.
So if the business is worth $2 million and your position is $1 million, well, Drew needs to Drew has a choice. And I don't know if you're married or not, Bill, but your wife is suddenly his partner on an equal status, or he needs to buy her out to maintain control of the company. And so he needs liquidity. He needs $1 million to buy out that equity portion, or from your kids and your heirs. So how do you create it? Well, that's where Key Man Life Insurance comes in, is you would each have $1 million policy or whatever value you've deemed appropriate on each other. You would own it on each other so that the other couldn't cancel it or, work around it. And then that death benefit would pay the surviving partner to buy out the shares of the family. Key man disability is, well, Bill, you're laid up in the hospital now, and Drew can't do your work as well as his. And so he's got to go find somebody to hire or do the work. And oh, by the way, Bill, you'd still like to get your income while you're laid up because you got bills to pay. So the disability side can be protected in two facets. You as income from the partner, as well as replacement income for a third person you might need to bring in. And then you could tie in overhead insurance, because now you got to pay bills out of that, so you can cover some of your overhead as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, and folks, to get a good understanding of this, I am married, by the way, Bruce, and let's say that I do predecease, and Drew needs to buy me out, but he doesn't have that policy because he never thought about it. He didn't know about it and whatnot and everything. And my wife, he goes on running the business and keeps it going, and pretty much it's now his, he thinks. And a couple of years later, my wife gets this boyfriend, and boyfriend's like, well, it finds out about this business and everything, and says, learns that she still owns 50% of the business. And he says, well, why aren't you getting money? Why don't you get your money out of this? You need to go in there and start causing trouble and start getting paid. And this happens more often than you think, folks. I've run into it in my days of selling insurance, and it can get very, very ugly. Or even a wife just decides that she wants to come in and take over and run it, but maybe she doesn't really understand all the aspects of owning and running a business, because maybe she's been in the corporate world her whole life. Maybe she's been in a different type of job situation, or maybe she's been a mom at home. Who knows? But or vice versa.
Drew's got a new partner, whether he wanted it or not, and he's got to deal with that. So now, again, begin with the end in mind. When you're establishing this with a partner, you're creating an operating agreement, and as if somebody was getting in with a prenup, you need a divorce strategy. You need, if the business goes in a different direction, if the partners are splitting up, if a partner predeceases, what happens? And you kind of have to have that laid out, because I can't speak in general terms what people do, but inevitably you would want 51% or 50.1 to the 49, so that you always had the final vote. In a 50-50 situation, well, who's the tiebreaker? Because if you and your partner, or now your partner's heir, aren't in agreement, well, Drew's stuck. So he better have 51%, because he's ultimately going to get the final say. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean he has to acquiesce to the other partner anymore. But the point I'm coming back to is, you got to go into the relationship with a partner with a whole bunch of contingencies laid out, so that it doesn't become disruptive later. Because at the end of the day, Drew don't want to deal with this headache. He just wants to keep running the business. And by the way, he's got to find a replacement partner because that partner brought skills to the table that Drew we said earlier, the blind spot. So you're covering Drew's blind spots in your role as a partner, and now he's got to go replace you. Where's that money come from?
And that can get expensive.
Of course.
You know, and that's part of what Key Man Insurance is about, is you lose, let's say you lose your global sales guy, and you know, you've got to replace him. Well, you've got a sales team. Maybe there isn't somebody on that team that can step into that role, and you need to go outside and find it. That can get expensive, and it's time consuming, because you need to find the right person. You know, bringing a new employee on at any given time for any company is very expensive.
Yep.
You know, a lot of companies do those temporary work things for the first 6 weeks or 3 months or so on before they consider you a full-time employee.
The test drive.
It's a test drive because of the costs involved.
But if you have your key rainmaker, right, your top salesperson that generates 50% of the business's sales now is suddenly gone or disabled, that's not so easy to replace. And again, the income. But I'll tie it in, because, you know, this is Chicago is a big sports town. So think about all the major athletes. They're getting, in general, Lloyd's of London disability policies. So Jacob deGrom signed a $300 million contract with the Rangers, and now he blew out his arm again. He's going to be done for 2 seasons. They still have to pay him.
Yeah. And
so that disability policy is going to give the Rangers that payroll so they can go get another pitcher to put on their staff, because, again, you know, it's not open-ended cash flow, but sports is a very good example where the top athletes go and get a Lloyd's of London. If they break their leg, they hurt their arm, their knee, whatever, you know, football players. So again, there's a great example that most people could radiate with.
Well, and let's look at it to the smaller guy, the blue collars, right? So we'll say you have a landscaping company. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You get hurt a lot in that job. And it's a benefit for your employees. If you were to get a benefit plan to them, that's great. But if you top it with a supplemental of disability, that gives them the extra protection and protects you as well. So, you know, there's a lot of different things.
That's the kind of company I want to go work for.
Correct.
Over somebody who's not.
And so, right. So that also offers that extra warm and fuzzy as an employer to your employee. That lessens your turnover. That lessens the want of calling in sick every day. If you want to be there and you're getting the right benefits and the right benefit plans and the right pay, and you're treated as an employee instead of a slave, right?
Yeah.
So just break that down. Your turnover is going to be way less. And construction, landscaping. I mean, tell me if I'm not nailing any, Bruce. I mean, there's a lot out there that are, you know, a little more on the higher risk side too of getting injured.
Sure.
Versus the desk jockey.
Well, that's why they have ratings in insurance, right?
Correct.
And they do.
Exactly.
You have to have the codes
Correct.
For what type of business you're in, and those codes dictate the rate at which you pay.
That's right.
Truck
drivers, you know, people who are more, as Drew said, blue collar, are going to have a lower rating, because at the end of the day, the likelihood or desire to go back to that job early is less than an executive. Meaning the executive has a deeper responsibility to his role, especially if it's a C-suite member of the company. And then the income obviously falls off. So they want to go back and make the income and the bonuses and whatever's attached. But the guy who's digging graves or digging ditches hurts their back and is making almost as much money not working, doesn't have the same incentive to go back to work. But guess what? Their benefits are less and shorter lasting than the higher classes.
Yeah,
so,
boy, I could go in a lot of different directions with that. With that, but I want to point out some other important things too. So an example, the main person running the business passes away, family member. You want family thinks they're taking over. It's their business, right? But they got to buy the business. Even if you're a family member, you still got to buy the business out. Right. And then
I guess it depends on who else owns it. So if it's a sole owner, if it's just you without a partner, then there could be a natural transition without a purchase. There's a value, might be taxes due, right?
Okay, so let's go a little deeper then. Let's say it's dad
Mhm.
is the owner of the company. He passes away. 2 out of the 4 kids are working for him. Even though all 4 believe that they have equal value in the business, that they should each get that same amount. And then the 2 working in it think, no, we're the ones here doing the work. We should get the money. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, your big top sales guy comes walking in and says, no, I'm buying the business. And they go, no, it's not for sale. Oh, yes, it is, because I'm buying it and I have all the clients on my client list. And either you're going to sell it to me or I'm walking out that door, starting my own business and taking all your clients with me. So there's another type of reason for insurance. There's we could tell stories, I'm sure, all day
Well,
here.
and I think too, when you get, as an entrepreneur, right? I have 4 or 5 businesses.
Yep.
And my partnership agreements, it's all based on the contract that you put together with your partner. You have to lay all that out. And once you have a plan on how you lay that out, then your insurance can dictate what can happen from there.
Yeah, that's a good point. You need an operating agreement.
Right. So once you have that, then there's already a foresight of what happens if somebody passes away, what that percentage would be. If it's a lifetime, business becomes yours, and maybe there's a percentage of a lifetime that goes to a family member. Maybe it's about how it's strategized in the beginning.
That's right.
Well, yeah. So if you're a business owner right now and you have a partner and you don't have an operating agreement, you should have bells going off in your head very loudly right now. Yeah.
Red flags everywhere.
Big time. And a lawyer can put that together for you very inexpensively, very quickly.
Yeah.
It's basically filling out a form.
Yeah.
It's loosely termed, it's a prenup. You want a prenup laying it out.
Correct.
Yeah, but you do want to find, again, you want to find the right person, the right lawyer for that too, because there are some little innuendos that a good lawyer will know to put in that agreement, where others will just do your basic, flat out, just fill this form out and we're done. And that may not be as effective as you need going down the road.
Well, I think in insurance too, and I know Bruce would probably vouch for this. A lot of this game is relationship building. So when, just out of curiosity, Bruce, and I definitely want to pop your website up here and so we can show everybody what you do and how you do it. So your insurance that you go through, what is your first steps in communicating with a client about what their needs are? How do you do that?
Well, it's all about a SWOT analysis, I guess is the easiest way to label it. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the conversation starts with, Bill, what are you trying to accomplish? How can I help? How do we get you from A to B? And then you're allowing me to assess the situation. And so the quadrants of SWOT, well, what are your strengths? Cash flow. What are your weaknesses? Well, I have some vulnerabilities here. I don't have a key man. I don't have a health benefit plan. So strengths and weaknesses. Opportunities, well, we can help you with this. We can help you with that. And then your threats. Well, your threats are that your employees could walk out the door tomorrow because you don't offer them a health insurance plan. Or you can't hire, as you said earlier, you can't attract new people, right? The Great Resignation has reduced the labor force for people who need to hire. The only way you're going to win the job is either offer them more salary than somebody else or an additional benefits package. Yeah. So the restaurant industry as a whole doesn't want to give benefits. There's a tremendous amount of turnover, but yet you're now seeing that they're offering their key employees benefits because they want them to stay. And these people are making tons and tons of money now because they're short-staffed.
I like this because there are types of insurance you can use for incentive for people to stick around.
Absolutely.
A whole life policy that builds cash value.
Yeah.
I'll buy a policy on an employee. I'll pay for that policy over time. It builds cash value, and say 5 years from now, I turn it over to you. And that cash value becomes yours. Now there's steps to that.
Yeah. A big thing is like a retirement plan, like a 401k, will have potentially, again, different companies do it different ways. It's what they call cliff, CLIFF, cliff vesting. So that a small business owner may not want to give Drew a 5% match that he could turn around and walk away with your money, but that 5% match has to vest over 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's 20% the first year, 40, 60, 80, 100. So after 5 years, you're rewarding the employee for being there longevity wise, that now the match is all theirs. But they had to put in 5 years. So the guy jumping jobs, well, he's never going to get to keep that money. You as the owner get to take it back.
Right.
So that's one way to incentivize somebody. And then, stock options. Again, depends on the size of the company. There's a difference of companies that are under 50 employees versus over 50.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I was going to ask about the cutoff.
Yeah. Somebody has 3, 5, 7, 10 is in a different financial situation than somebody has 25 to 50 and certainly 50 and above. And then when you get 100, 200, 500, now you're in a really, it's just a different realm. The money's, if I have 500 employees, revenue and cash flow is not necessarily the problem to offer benefits, right? It's just now, how do I keep scaling? But it's you and Drew and an admin, and now the three of you need to get to 7. Well, how do I go find 3 salespeople and another admin or shipping and receiving, or what? Like, how do I pay them? What do I offer them? Yeah, where do I get them? So now you need to hire a salesperson. Well, what are you going to offer them? Commission? Well, they want a base. They want a base and benefits. Well, you don't want to give a base and benefits because you don't know how well they are at sales yet.
Yeah.
So you want to give them commission only. And so now there's that push pull, and who's going to acquiesce? Well, you're like, well, I still can't hire anybody. So somewhere in there is, well, we're going to give you a draw, right? Draw against commission. So I'll give you a baseline of $2,000 a month against commission, and then we'll put you on a 90-day trial. I mean, you got to find, right?
That's really tough. The sales world, where most sales jobs are typically 100% commission.
Yeah.
And that's tough because you may not be hiring the right people, and bringing them on and just saying, okay, well, I'm just going to give them a desk, let them make calls, and hopefully they bring business in. Not a really good business plan.
You can't hire people like that just steam up the mirror. You have to find their skills. They have to be the right fit, and then you got to wonder why they're coming on board, and then more importantly, if they're really good, how long are they going to stick around?
Yeah.
Well, right. It's a stepping stone, right? So, I mean, we're talking bootstrap, mom and pop, SMB markets enterprise. And when you do that, if you start right in the beginning as a bootstrap, right, and you start working forward to that, then it's guys like Bruce that can help level up that insurance plan as you grow versus not having it. If you're in the SMB market and you have X amount of employees and you don't see them as assets, because you insure all your assets. Right?
Yeah.
And if you don't see your employees as assets, then you shouldn't be in business, because those are the most valuable assets that you have. They make your well-oiled machine happen. And that breaks down anything, even to cyber insurance, right? What is your data worth to you? And so, if you're a big enough company and you're doing all your compliance regulations, that's great. But a lot of us are going to start asking for the cyber insurance now, because, well, if something goes awry and you lose that, now that's costing you more money because you don't have your data. It's a lot.
Ask Target about that.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Bill, you talked about E&O, so cyber liability is a massively scaled insurance space in and of itself. We're working on a deal with a company, and they're a computer company, so there's even more touches to what they do than just a normal business operating, because they're in the computer space with their computer based clients. And what's interesting, if people don't know or understand, the insurance company sends their own hackers into the computer space and try and penetrate all your firewalls.
That's right.
Before they will insure you with cyber liability, they're going to hack into you. And they're going to tell you, we got in here, 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 and here. You need to fix that, and then we'll give you the insurance. Amazing. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know. Even the big companies, the Fortune 500, they run tests all the time with their employees, sending false emails to see if people will click on things, and people fail all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not whether or not you think you're ever going to. It's not a typical insurance policy, either use it or lose it. This one, you're going to use it. You need it.
Well, the benefit to a lot of the big companies, they're rolling through data centers, which are insured as well. So a lot of the times when you get a data center, you get your MSP, which is your managed service provider, that works with your IT team. And so there's a level of insurance that they're actually going to provide for you with cyber insurance, because you're going through their facility. They have to right.
they've got to cover their own behinds as well.
Being a tech in the tech world for so long, I can tell you this: if you don't have somebody that can work on your compliance issues for you, and you're trying to do it yourself, the fines are way more expensive than paying somebody to work on it for you. The liability of it, right?
Pay me now or pay me later.
Correct.
Yeah, well, those of us who are in the insurance or financial world, we know all about compliance.
Yes.
That's another whole world, another show we could do, but I don't want to piss off everybody in compliance world right now. But
wait till July.
Yeah, but go ahead, pull up his website here, and we'll show you a little bit, get an idea of.
So that's
the planner.
Ask the Plan Man. I have two sites. So Ask the Plan Man, that's the podcast website. Then WeinsteinWealth.com is the insurance website where you can find data or information, education on all the different aspects of insurance.
And again, folks, we understand this isn't the funnest topic to talk about and have a discussion about, but the reality is when you don't talk about things, you don't learn, and when you don't learn, you don't gain that knowledge. That's the thing that those are the things that can kill your business. They can ruin your business. They can ruin your life. So it's important to have these conversations. Most of you know I'm involved in teaching financial literacy and entrepreneurial skills. And the purpose of that is because nobody else teaches it.
Yeah.
We don't learn it from our parents. We don't learn it from home. And then we don't know what to do when we get out there in the real world. And it doesn't matter what age you are. You're probably, to a great extent, financially illiterate. I've seen every age.
Well,
But
and too, if you realize that insurance gets real interesting when something bad happens, right? Then you got to learn it, and then you get real interested
Right.
real quick.
Right.
Versus, it's one of those things. It's better to have it and not need it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But the biggest volume of incoming life insurance requests is when somebody's diagnosed with something critical.
Yeah, right.
And like, I just got diagnosed with diabetes. Can I get life insurance? No.
Right.
I got terminal cancer. Can I get life insurance?
Well,
No.
you can, but it's just going to cost you probably the same amount of what the benefit's going to be.
Jump out of airplanes without a parachute for a while. Can I get life?
Yeah, I have a tagline that I've been using is, you don't know what you don't know. That's why you got to keep listening to the show.
Right.
And so the Plan Man in of itself, as you scrolled through that, thank you, is you hit on the head, Bill. It's financial literacy. We have different topics breaking down insurance and finance related items and topics.
Yep.
And we usually speak with somebody. I don't have too many solo episodes, but we're usually bouncing back with another health care person or another Medicare person. And again, we do pretty much everything that's on here. I could talk it on my own, but it's boring me just talking. So I'd rather have Bill on and have an exchange. But there's an episode you have there on is your credit scores impacted? How do you develop a better credit score? How do you avoid ruining your credit scoring? We have an episode on leasing versus financing cars. We have an episode on special needs trusts. So I have an estate planning episode, but I also have a special needs trust episode with a special needs trust attorney, because 25% of the population has a special needs family member. That's the same as saying 25% of the population deals with somebody with cancer. So it's a pretty big situation that people need to know guidance and advice. There's no products on there. There's no sales pitch on there. It's strictly information to promote. And that's why I think you asked me on is, we have that commonality of promoting financial literacy. So my legacy of doing this 36 years is to take all the stuff that I've accumulated knowledge-wise, and when I'm dead and buried, hopefully a few years from now anyway, this stuff will endure. People can go back and say, well, that's still relevant today.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. This is what this show is all about. This is about giving. Nobody gets paid. Nobody, there's no money involved.
Right?
It's not a pitch. We're not selling anything. We're trying to provide knowledge, because, my mission
information's power, right? Information's power.
The mission statement for my company, Meta Ed Partners, is we provide knowledge. Knowledge gives you options. Options gives you freedom. Folks have heard that many times on this show, but it's absolutely 100% true. The more you learn, the more choices you're going to have. The odds of you making a better choice, having more choices, is much greater.
Well, and I definitely want to throw this out there. You're watching Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse from the 21/6 Creator Studios. Check it out, folks. AskThePlanman.com. Check out his show. A lot of really good edutainment is like what I like to call it, because it's education and entertaining at the same time. But yeah, is there any other feed that you want to put to that, Bruce, real quick? Is there a way to get a hold of you other than through your website?
Sure. You can go to WeinsteinWealth.com, my last name, wealth.com. That's our other website. And then we have a toll-free number, 844-PLANMAN. You can call us, or Bruce at AskThePlanman.com for my email. But there was you guys had a point before, and I totally forgot what it was I wanted to add in. I'm trying to think of it before we wrap up. But we were talking about proactivity and the SWOT, and it'll come back to me. It was something good I wanted to give you, Bill. Before
I agree with you. I mean, I have so many things bouncing around my head. And
power. We're talking about power. Information is power.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So here was a point I was going to bring in. Anybody who's involved in a sales process, what is normally the buyer's resistance? It's either lack of trust or lack of belief in what they're hearing, which means they're probably just not educated enough to make that decision. So the no becomes the decision. And so the best way I can describe one of the things I do best is to give you complete understanding and explanation. And it's okay to say no to what it is when you determine it's truly not what you need or want. Right. But where most people don't execute the life insurance, the health insurance, the Medicare, the disability, the whatever it is because they truly don't understand it, and nobody is giving them the components of the education. And so the biggest feedback I get is people saying, wow, you made that very easy to understand.
One of my pet peeves in the insurance industry world is oftentimes you're trained to sell what the client wants, not what they need.
Correct.
Just so you can get in the door and eventually get them to what they need. But see, I don't like that at all, because I agree with you. It's about education, educating the folks on the products that are and the reasons for having those specific types of policies in place, what they're going to do, how they work, why you need them. And you're right, price is another reason that turns people off, right? And in sales, but you have to you need to listen to a professional like Bruce so that you can get an understanding and you can understand the value that it brings, because that's the most important thing.
Well, and so you got to be careful. Everybody sells the same bologna sandwich, right, Bill?
Right.
So it's about who's going to hand you that sandwich. If the person handing you the sandwich is going to be in your trusted vetted network, then your best interest is in their mind.
Right.
If they're just trying to sell you the bologna sandwich, the chips, the drink, and everything else,
you
have to see that. That's why when I do anything, I don't go by the pitch. I want you to know me first, and I want to know you first, right? And so it seems like Bruce has that.
Yeah.
Well, I say I have nothing to sell, just problems to solve.
Correct.
So I consider myself a unicorn in the space because I cover all aspects. And so the story with that is a buddy of mine lost his job, decided he was going to get involved, I don't know how or where, selling long-term care insurance, just long-term care. And I said, well, why are you going in with only one tool in your toolbox? If you need a hammer, you're only selling screwdrivers. Like what if they need life insurance? What if they need disability? What if they needed auto? What if they need a commercial? Like, you're going to walk out with no deal, no transaction, because you've got to find the buyer for your round peg when they have a square hole. And so I've always tried to be consultative of let's just figure out what you need, and I've got a way to implement it.
So in that note, some folks will say, oh, he's a jack of all trades. We don't want to work with somebody like that. But here's the reality. If you're going to work with individuals who just do long-term care, and another one just does life insurance, another one just does key man insurance, and so on, you're going to wind up having a lot of people around you. And you're going to have a lot of different things going on, and they're not coordinating with each other.
Exactly.
You're the one left to try and coordinate all that. And you've already said that you're not the expert in this because you have all these people surrounding you. So, folks,
Look, it took me 36 years to get here. So
Yeah.
I wasn't doing all of it day one, right? You
Exactly.
grow into it and you add the education. But Drew said it before. I thought I heard him say the word trusted advisor or trusted advisor group. And I run and manage my own trusted advisor group where I bring in the other individuals in the financial space, just think CPAs and attorneys. So I don't do that work, but you know what I am? I'm the quarterback. I'm the navigator.
right.
I'm your offensive coordinator. You're the head coach. I'm going to help you run the plays. You have the right to say no to that play, right? So,
right.
Mike, I'll use Mike Ditka as the, Chicago. So, your buddy Ryan's giving him the play. And if Ditka doesn't want that play and he wants to run the refrigerator instead, well, he's the head coach. He could decide that.
Right.
But Buddy's like, no. Actually, Buddy's on defense. So I'm sorry. I'm using offense.
That's true. True.
He wants to blitz Singletary, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
You get the point.
Great point. Great way to make a point. Cause it's again, this is a valuable conversation to have. This folks, if this is not on your mind because you think, oh, I can't afford it, or it's not the right time.
I can't afford not to have it.
Yeah. I mean, so many other things are going on. This is not a high priority for me. Which is typical, right? Insurance is never a high priority for anybody until, like you pointed out, until something happens, and then you wish you had it.
Yeah,
and you can't
tell me. I always tell people, you tell me when you're going to die, and I'll give you the perfect financial plan. You tell me when you're going to have an accident, and I'll tell you when to get the insurance. Right? You tell me when your house is going to burn down, or you're going to get rear-ended at the parking lot at the supermarket, and I'll tell you. So you can't. That's insurance is risk. Risk assessment, risk evaluation.
You can't nickel and dime on it. I mean, listen, you remember when ghost policies were like a big thing. So it's job to job, right, on a GL policy or a policy. And so I used to get all the time, like, oh, I have a ghost policy. So we only get the insurance when we need it for that job. So we don't have to pay on a monthly or anything else. I'm like, well, you're getting what you pay for.
Right.
And those policies, I don't even, hey, Bruce, do you see those exist anymore? I don't even really
I can tell you, I've never heard the term ghost policy.
Oh, okay. So so ghost policies used to be, hey, I'm an entrepreneur and I need a COI for a job in construction. We're gonna go do cleanup on this site, right? And so your agent would be like, we put you on a ghost policy, and that covers you, gives you the COI to prove that you have insurance, and it covers you up for X amount.
Might be like a general liability of some kind.
It's a GL job to job,
yeah.
Right? And so you're not paying a monthly on it; you're just paying it per job.
Right. My buddy's a florist. And he goes and does a wedding at a big wedding hall, right? He's got to come in and set it up. They want to know he's got event insurance to be on their property, coming and going, bringing his van and doing the flowers and setting it all up. And they want to make sure he's covered because they don't want to be liable if he slips and falls.
You have people come into your home. Let's say you're redoing your kitchen. Let's say you got a plumber, electrician, whatever, coming in and working on your home. One of the things that smart people know to do is ask, are you bonded?
Yep.
Meaning, are you insured? Because you don't want that company coming in that's not insured, that screws something up, maybe starts a fire, whatever can happen, and lots of things can happen. And you're SOL, right? If you're hiring somebody who is not, as we call it, bonded in those professions and many other professions.
I got a horror
Bill,
story from that one. There was a guy on a ladder. He was working on as a third party, pay you in cash type thing.
Yep.
For a contractor, and he fell off the ladder in the house, and then he is still collecting money, and he's threatening to sue, so he's still collecting a partial paycheck.
Yeah.
In order for not to sue, and there's no insurance backing it. Right. So that's a
and there's no you don't know if that person 5 years turns around and says, I'm going to sue you anyway.
Correct.
Well, we are a litigious society, so that there.
Well, here in America, we are.
Yeah.
Outside of America, not so much.
Yeah. I said we.
Yeah.
Can I jump back? You said something about can't afford an expense, so I want to put this in reference to the listener. Your attorney's going to charge you by the hour. Your accountant's going to probably charge you by the hour. Your financial advisor these days might be fee-based, so what they manage for you asset-wise, there'll be a fee. Yep. The world of insurance is free. We don't add on a price or a markup. The insurance companies and your health or your situation dictate the premiums. They're set by the insurance companies. The insurance agencies or companies pay us to place the business. You sitting down with me doesn't cost you anything. It's not a billable event. We're there to uncover things. And whether you're buying Obamacare, you're going on Medicare, you're buying disability, health insurance, life, whatever it is, then we'll get paid by them. We do a ton of Medicare business. That's going to be the most confusing thing a senior is going to get involved with, because they're going to get a foot high pile of mail. And then every agent within 60 miles of them is going to be soliciting them as they're turning 65. And you talk about paralysis by analysis, they're not even going to know what to do. And so you've got to unfuse that and then help them learn and understand the different sides and what their options are. And at the end of the day, Medicare is going to pay us. Like, don't worry about it. Like, there's no cost to talk with an advisor.
I love the commercials for Medicare. They'd say, all you gotta do is give us your zip code and we'll tell you whether or not you're eligible.
Yeah.
What a joke.
It's first of all, those
eligible.
Those commercials are getting pulled finally. It's a massive bait and switch. I love Joe Namath and Jimmy Walker and all the others doing it, but it's a very misleading advertisement, which, by the way, I, as an advisor, can't run those ads. It's illegal, yet they're getting away with it. We're all going, how are they getting away with it? I cannot solicit. If Bill, if you said to me, my brother Joe's turning 65, he needs Medicare, give him a call, I cannot. I have to say to you, Bill, Joe needs to call us.
Yeah.
Because it's a solicitation. Same with attorneys. An attorney technically can't call you and said, oh, I heard you had a slip and fall. You have to find them. So the ads you see on TV are to raise awareness and get you to call them, but they can't solicit you. They can't call you individually and say, I heard you had a traffic accident. But that's why you see the ambulance chasers.
We're not even allowed to use the word free in a conversation. Right? And financial advisors,
consultative,
especially. Yeah. It's
no cost, no obligation. That's about
exactly. I mean, obviously there's other ways to say it, so it's kind of silly, but commercial. I want to do a whole show on just commercials. I want to do, maybe it would have to take several shows just to do on the misleading information.
It's unbelievable.
But
yes, supposedly CMS is finally cracking down on those commercials. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't see that, but that's for a discussion for another time. But so, folks, I hope you're getting a little bit of a feel of the value and importance of at least talking to somebody and understanding this aspect of an extremely important aspect of business in general. I know a lot of you over the last 2 years, the Great Resignation, we've gone out there, according to our current leader. He has said that the 10 million new businesses have been created in the last 2 years, meaning registered LLC, sole prop, C Corp, S Corp. Folks, that's not where it ends. You don't just register and sign up and throw a plaque out on your door there and hope people come banging down and running in. Doesn't work that way. There's so many different things to understand about starting, building, running a business.
Talk to me in 5 years, right? Like it's starting's one thing. Who's going to be there in 5 years?
Yeah,
correct. And even for the leaders in SMB market or any corporation, don't be afraid to let your human resource department know to reach out and talk to people like Bruce. I want to say talk to Bruce, because I mean, you sound like you got it down, Bruce. And that is where, hey, we need you to run an analysis on what we're doing now, and where are we missing, and how can we get some cost control on that as well. And I mean, policies change all the time. Right?
Well, there's key. Cost control is key, and yes, Bruce is the type of person. We only bring on the highest level of people on this show.
Of course.
To provide the best quality information possible, because that's what this show is all about.
Right.
And we do this for nothing.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time vetting.
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is 3 years in of trying to bring the highest quality, highest level of people in here to help you understand the different aspects of business. And this is a subject we just don't talk about much anywhere, and we haven't done it on this show. And I had the distinct privilege of being introduced to Bruce, and immediately said, "I got to get you on."
Yeah.
You know,
I
it was a no brainer.
I'll leave some final comments. Is planning to me is being proactive.
Yeah.
Good things happen when you're proactive. When we have to be reactive, it's oftentimes too late and certainly going to be way more expensive. And so the plan man is to always remain proactive.
People always say, I can't see into the future. Well, you can plan for the future. It may not be able to plan for every aspect of the future, right? Life happens, but you can make plans to balance that future out, so that you're not on a hope and a prayer.
Bill, you and I come from the Wall Street background, and we've been around the block a couple of days, right?
True.
So there was the E.F. Hutton, right, from the 80s and the 90s,
right.
So before they went out of business, but they had great ads, and the ads were two people sitting around having lunch or dinner talking about something specific in their finances, and the one person saying to the other person about X, Y, and Z, and they're like, "Well, how did you know to do that?" And the answer was, my advisor asked. Yeah. And so if you're not being asked, and that's always been a strength of mine, again, the SWOT and the poking holes and the what ifs in the conversation is, I'm here to throw mud at you to see what sticks, because there's things you don't know that I do. And I'm going to share with you 1,000 different clients that I've worked with over the years and share those experiences to make you think about, what do you want to do if? And so I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
And then at least we've addressed it. And I said it before, it's okay to say no. But the last thing I ever want to hear from Drew or you or anybody else is, you never told me that. You never told me that. BS. Exactly. I told you. It's in my notes. I asked you, because I go through my checklist to make sure you're in tune with the things you need to know. And that's what an advisor is supposed to do, is advise, not selling.
And good advisors know to do that, because they know it's going to come back to haunt them if they don't. And I love the fact that you bring it up as a conversation. Let's have a conversation about your business. And let me show you from my angle. Let me provide you with information so you have knowledge, so you can make a better choice. And you're not pushing any individual specific product.
No,
you're taking a picture. We're looking at it from a helicopter view. We're taking a picture and we're saying, okay, here are some vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Now it's up to you to choose whether or not you wish to do something about that. Again, planning for your future, right? If you choose to do something about it, you're protecting yourself from the future happening that could ruin your business.
And you're showing them a picture of
or your
their
family.
Business.
Yeah.
Right? You're showing them a picture of their business. So it's their vulnerabilities. It's not like you're like, hey, this is what we can do for vulnerabilities. These are your vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
So if you go out to your car and you got 2 flat tires, and Bruce is like, hey, you got 2 flat tires, and like, I don't got 2 flat tires.
Right.
No, you can clearly see that you do.
Right.
So that's
you may not see as clearly in a business.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. There's a lot of fog. There's a lot of fog in it.
You won't see as clearly in it. That's why it's just so important to have an understanding, because it's ignorance is not an excuse.
No. Your helicopter, you made me think of something, right? So you got your helicopter hovering up high above. Think of the military services, and they got their night vision. And what are they picking up? They're picking up the bogeys. They're seeing where the bad guys are in the heat sensors, so that they can tell their people where to avoid or where the bogeys are. Well, isn't that what planning is? Yeah. It's avoiding the bogeys. It's like, here's a landmine you're about to step on. Do you really want to step on it? No. Well, then you need this to protect that. Oh, your cybersecurity is going to leave you vulnerable. Do you want to? Yeah, I need to fix that. So again, think of it in that regard, as it's just the proactivity of saying, look, this is your exposure, right? Your weaknesses and your threats. What do you want to do about it?
I totally agree. I mean, what's funny is a thought came to my mind. Is like, you go to the police, you get arrested for something, and go in front of the judge and said, I did not knowingly and willingly commit that crime. And the judge looks, he goes, so what? you did commit the crime. But so being ignorant and choosing to remain ignorant is gonna hurt you because the pain is real. And so there's value in spending time with someone like you, Bruce, and learning. And I agree with you, Drew.
Yeah.
You better see where those demons are.
And if you have a team, pick your team well, right? And listen to your team. If they're telling you, hey, we need to talk to Bruce, okay, go talk to him.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to not know something. Be afraid to not learn it. And that's one of those things and where Bruce comes in and he educates you about what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong, as well as what your needs are, not necessarily just to upsell.
Well, that's being proactive. I agree with you, Bruce. It's tough. I have people in my life that I know are proactive and other people that are reactive. And I've slowly kind of moved away from the reactive folks because I'm proactive. I'm thinking ahead.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of what I'm trying to accomplish, what I'm trying to do, what can stop me from accomplishing what I'm trying to do, and trying to set myself up so I don't have those failures to continue to stare at year after year after year.
Not for nothing. I learned a lot by watching reactive people on what not to do. It is an education. So go find yourself a couple of them.
Yeah.
Drew, you're off camera. I can't see you. How old are you?
I'm 50.
50. Okay, Drew.
He's a young guy.
He's a kid. Drew, do you go to your doctor for an annual exam?
I do.
Do you hope the doctor finds some problems with you, or do you like when the doctor says, "Hey, you're good to go. Everything's no medications. You don't need a stent. You don't need a bypass. You're good to go. We'll see you next year." Is that a good feeling?
Depends on the type of vacation I want to take. If I need a break from work, I'll be like, "Come on, find something." No, just kidding. I mean, listen, that's their job is to poke and prod and figure out what's wrong with you.
But my point of the analogy is that we go for an annual exam to check out our bodies, and we hope we get a good feedback, right? We get good results. I don't want to have 7,000 cholesterol and a PSA of 42 and a rock hard prostate and clogged arteries, right? So the point of the analogy is that insurance and financial advisors are your doctors.
Correct.
And sitting with us and getting an assessment, there'll be no better feeling to say, Drew, you're doing everything properly. I can't help you. Your SWOT is perfect, because that's what you want to hear from your medical doctor. So why aren't you doing it with your financial and your insurance people to say, hey, okay. I mean, there's nothing. Look, it doesn't happen often where I turn people away saying, Bill, there's nothing I can do for you, man. Like, you're perfectly set up, because I'm always, in 36 years, finding something that could be better.
So Bruce, you and I are a lot alike. I've been doing this a little over 37 years, so I'm just a slight hair ahead of you. But in all those years, I got to tell you, I wish there were more advisors like you.
Mhm.
I don't meet enough of them.
Yeah.
I don't meet many of them. It's unfortunate, because I think the training in this industry is probably some of the worst in any industry. But
on that point is, mine's self-taught, right? Merrill Lynch didn't give me all of this knowledge.
No.
They gave me a foundation. But that's what you and I talked before the show, is that when you come out of the big firm mentality, the training is theirs. Their mandate is there, and their message agenda and deliverables, that's their agenda. Yeah. And so, I moved to the independent side long time ago, so that I have nobody's agenda except to formulate my own views and opinions and then execute it. And then I self-educated for the pieces that I needed to know. And that was my evolution. But
I did the same thing.
Right.
I did exactly the same thing. But not all people see that. And not all advisors see that either.
Well, they don't know the distinctions, right?
They don't
know the distinctions.
They only know one way.
Yeah.
So folks, shop around. It's not just about, because Merrill Lynch is a great name that I got to talk to a Merrill Lynch person, that they may or may not be a great person to talk to. I'm not dissing Merrill Lynch by any means, but of course I am. No, but it's when you go shopping, you look at when you want to buy a car, you look at different cars, right? You do that all the time. When you want to buy clothes, you look at all different kinds of clothes. Do the same thing. But I got to tell you something. If you have the opportunity to run into somebody like Bruce Weinstein, then you stick with that, because like I said, I've been in this business over 37 years, and I wish I knew more advisors like you to make the rest of us who are like you look good.
Thank you.
Because it's tough. There's enough of us out there, advisors, I should say, that unfortunately don't do the best. But so, Bruce, I want to thank you for coming on the show, talking about a subject that's not always fun to listen to and talk about. And you made it most interesting. And
thank you. I appreciate it. Greatly honored to be on the show with you and Drew.
Nice
So
meeting you, Bruce.
thank you for having me. Love to come back anytime.
Yes, we'll arrange that.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
So
Well, guys-
here's my closing tagline. When you need some advice, always get it right. Come ask the Plan Man. So
There you go.
Oh, I love it.
AskThePlanner.com and theplanman.com.
Yes, PlanMan.com.
Very catchy. You guys are listening to 21 6 Creator Studios Innovative Strategies with Bill. Ossie? What do you go by? Ossie? Just don't call you late for dinner. Got it.
Right.
Folks, and have a great day. And until next time, be the change you want to see in the world.
Thanks, folks.